Once again, welcome everybody to today's session, Off with Their Heads, Building Unforgettable Experiences with Large Format 3D Printing. My name is Brian Tierney, and I'm the Global Education Senior Specialist here at IAAPA, and I support the development and delivery of education programs for the global attractions industry. And today's webinar will step behind the scenes of a daring themed worlds and immersive retail spectacles made possible through large format 3D printing. Our speaker will walk us through the real world case studies, outlining workflows from concept to stunning final finishes. You'll see how giant characters and eye-catching activations can be produced using digital technologies that dramatically accelerate timelines, reduce material waste, and open doors to new business opportunities. Now, before we begin, let's take a few moments to go over today's webinar format. During our broadcast, you'll be able to view and listen to the presentation, but your microphones and video cameras will remain off throughout the session. There is no charge to join us today via computer, but if you dialed in by phone, long distance or international rates could apply, so keep that in mind. You will have the opportunity to submit questions throughout the presentation by typing them into the Q&A control panel that's located at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Now, the Q&A panel is separate from the chat panel, so you don't want to ask your questions in the chat. You want to head to the Q&A panel and ask those questions. Now, your questions will only be viewable by IAAPA staff and our presenter today. We are also recording today's broadcast, and the recording will be available on the education page at IAAPA.org in approximately 3 to 5 business days. And we encourage you to share that information with any colleagues who could benefit from today's discussion. IAAPA members also have access to a robust library of past webinars and education sessions at no cost on IAAPA.org, so make sure you keep that in mind as well. And finally, by participating in today's webinar, you can earn continuing education credits towards the renewal of your IAAPA certification. If you're not yet certified, IAAPA certifications are the only globally recognized credentials in the attractions industry and are an excellent way to demonstrate your expertise and commitment to professional growth. But now I think it's time to get started. Joining us today is Randy Van Buren. Randy is the head of North America sales at Massivit. Randy thrives on helping manufacturers increase their production efficiency and explore new creative possibilities through emerging technologies. With extensive expertise in design processes and an educational background in design and drafting from the North Central State College in Ohio, Randy regularly exposes manufacturers to innovative additive manufacturing applications. He is dedicated to contributing deep technical and creative knowledge to the manufacturing community. So with that said, please everybody welcome Randy. Hey Randy, good to see you. The stage is yours. Take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. It's good to be here as well, and appreciate the audience joining us for this event. And with that said, we'll kick it off. I will share my screen. Just one moment. There we go. We should be good to go. Well, so I will, Brian, just to confirm that, would you mind confirming we can see my screen?
Yeah, your screen looks great.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So I will apologize in advance. I do have a little bit of a cough, and so if you hear me cough, just try to ignore that, and we'll try to keep that to a minimum. So thanks again, everyone, for attending. We'll take you through how to build really unforgettable experiences with large format 3D printing. And with that said, we'll go ahead and jump right in. As Brian mentioned, I'm Randy Van Buren, head of sales for Massivit in North America. I've been with the organization about 4 years now, but my experience goes way, way back in terms of mechanical design, applications, but really in the additive space as well. And so we'll talk more about the additive piece as we go into the presentation. So what you'll see today are a few different things, but really an introduction from Massivit and why large format 3D, and in particular, why in this particular space. We'll go through some case studies for you, We'll talk about our GDP technology and what makes that stand out and why it works for the scenic fabrication industry, for visual communications, etc. And so we'll take you through all of that. We'll combine that with some slides, some conversation, and actually some videos from our customers as well. And then from that point on, we'll go into a Q&A that Brian will host, and we'll answer your questions. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. So we'll start off with a quote from Sir Richard Taylor. He's the co-founder and CEO and creative director at Weta Workshop. And he states, "For 15 years, we've dreamed of a day when a printer would provide super large scale, speed, and build strength at low print costs in equal measure. The Massivit 3D printer has delivered this for us." Kind of nice to see that quote directly from Sir Richard Taylor. And so I shared that statement from Sir Richard because it perfectly describes a combination of three key barriers that have really existed in 3D printing for quite some time. As many in our audience may be aware, 3D printing has been around for more than 20 years. And while the technology certainly matured to some extent, those three challenges have remained. And they've really remained strong for production fabricators: speed, size, and materials. These limitations hinder the production and delivery cycles, and it's our experience that based on feedback from our customers in the scenic and entertainment worlds, they simply don't have the luxury of time. Time, or lack of time, seems to be the fabricator's greatest adversary. So Massivit was founded to address those missing pieces. So let's take a quick first look. So sculptures that might take days or even weeks can now be printed in hours with our technology. So the most successful custom fabricators in the entertainment sector tend to be the companies that know how to leverage different technologies and really leverage them in the right way. There's no silver bullet when it comes to creativity. Design studios often use a range of milling machines, 3D printers, and other equipment to achieve the customer's wildest dreams. But there are many large format applications that simply can't be produced on anything but a large format 3D printer. And when it comes to tight deadlines, Massivit customers report over and over again that their printer saved the job. And this is possible by addressing the primary barriers that the fabricators have seen with regard to that speed, size, and materials. And that's where Massivit comes in. So by combining the radical speed at mega scale in terms of size with lightweight materials and creative finishes, fabricators may achieve the extraordinary. And I'll say it one more time, and I'll put some emphasis on that: the extraordinary, and at not regular, at record production speeds. Being able to print extremely fast gets you to that finished product or the end product much, much faster so that you can apply those creative finishes and spend the time where the time should be spent. So when it comes to large format printing needs, Massivit supports a wide range of industries, as you see: automotive, marine, rail. But really today we're going to focus on, of course, scenic fabrication, theming and entertainment, and signs and displays. So we're going to take you through some examples of how to actually build some of these unforgettable experiences and take you from concept to those stunning final finishes. When you consider tools that really need to captivate you or your customer's audience today, It's becoming more and more important to create an experience that's larger than life, that includes selfie experiences, animatronics, and other interactive display environments, and those become front and center. So how do you create all of this in the easiest and sometimes fastest ways possible? Well, let's actually dive into some examples. So our punchline for the presentation was off with their heads. And the reason that is in this case, we're talking about the giant chess queen. And if you're fortunate enough, you were able to witness the incredible piece at Busch Gardens in Tampa, Florida, during the Shadows of Wonderland Halloween exhibit. It's an amazing sculpture, to be sure, but how is it created and how can you create it? That's what we're going to dive in now. So this giant sculpture that you saw, and it was tough to see the scale because there wasn't anybody standing by it, but it's roughly 9 feet tall, and you'll see scale on this example shortly. But it was roughly 9 feet tall, and it was 3D printed on the Massivit 3D printer, courtesy of Hatchex in Elkridge, Maryland, just outside of Baltimore. Special shout out to my good friend Chris McCormick at Hatch Exhibits. And as you can imagine, a 9-foot tall statue would typically be no easy task to create. And even if you could create it, would probably take weeks, if not even longer. So Chris and team set to work on this amazing piece by printing it in multiple sections. And even with their 2 large format Massivit printers, this piece required multiple prints due to its size. But that's not really a problem, and we'll see why in the next few slides. You'll see exactly how the process is done. So as I mentioned, the piece was printed in multiple pieces. There are several reasons for this, but primarily the piece was, again, nearly 9 feet tall. There's just no real good application in terms of anything 3D printing or additive that really could handle that. So, but again, it's not a problem with the right tools. So Chris and team at Hatchex printed the statue in multiple parts directly from a file downloaded from the internet. They simply downloaded a digital file, scaled it up to meet the size requirement from the customer, and printed it. And printing with Massivit enables you to print completely hollow in most cases. By printing the queen in multiple pieces and because the parts were hollow, Hatchex was able to fill portions of the model where needed with expandable foam to provide a level of rigidity and strength as they needed. So remember when I said the model really didn't matter in terms of size, meaning it's really not a roadblock? Parts are easily assembled and bonded together with the same material that they're actually printed with. Simply piece the multiple pieces together, assemble them using the raw gel material, cure it with a UV handheld flashlight, and now you've got a single structure with the same molecular bonds, same material that you've printed with as well. This gives you a better example of the size and scale of this part. Very, very large piece, an amazing piece. So we'll maybe focus a little bit more on Hatchex at this point. Hatchex is an amazing fabricator in the Baltimore area that builds incredible experiences. We'll go through an example of one of their builds for the Boston Marathon in more detail. This particular piece leveraged a number of different materials in terms of the infill and the coating on the outside, but we'll talk about all that and why that was necessary and what made it possible. So first, let's watch the amazing piece being printed and the process for completion. So you may have seen me grin during that video, and I have to tell you, even being here 4 years and very experienced with the product, it's still exciting. It's still amazing to see it happen. Very, very impressive. So another amazing fabricator is Shag Carpet Prop Rentals. It's a Dallas-based Texas firm, and their team is incredibly innovative as well. And we'll see with a tour of their creation of statues for the World Cup Fan Fest. An absolutely amazing exhibit, and we'll walk you through that. Actually, they'll walk you through this. So, to be clear, these pieces are life-size replicas of real people. Shag Carpet was able to obtain scan models of each person and print them directly using our GDP technology. Full-size, life-size scale pieces as well. So let's actually take just a brief look at the process. And I think what's almost even more important is the excitement that it generated.
Hey there, how cool is this? 3D printing of life-size sculptures, and you'll be able to see these during the FIFA Fan Fest. They are women, they're called game changers. Cent Marshall is one of them.
I am Cent Marshall, and I got all kind of titles, so I'm just happy to be here. Totally surprised me. I'm over there. It is crazy what is happening. The detail, the first thing I thought about, oh my God, it looks like me. I'm just honored to be a part of this exhibit and to be included with 29, I think it's about 30 of us, women who were selected because of our careers in sports and our love for STEM, so science, technology, engineering, and math. So all of my worlds came together as a part of being involved in this. So I'm excited and I'm honored. And then I thought about all the little girls and boys that will see this exhibit. And they will leave, hopefully, this exhibit knowing that it's cool.
And it is cool. It's really cool. There's the actual exhibit. 26 life-size sculptures were completed in total for the 2026 FIFA World Cup Fan Festival. It's a pretty amazing display, and kudos to the team at Shag Carpet Prop Rentals for being able to pull that off. So let's actually watch some more behind the scenes with Shag Carpet.
Step by step, hear the rhythm climb. These boots are mine. They're keeping time. These boots are mine. I make for grooving. Every step I take, the world's moving. One day you'll see it's all aligning. These boots are mine. They're out here shining.
Pretty amazing testament. They mentioned being able to complete those in days rather than months. And that's absolutely incredible when it comes to creating the sculpture. The beauty, though, is that while you're still looking for that final product, which would be a result of a sculpture, you're still creating the detail that you need. You still have the artistic talent. You're still applying that talent. We're just getting you to that finish line much, much, much faster. Here's another amazing fabricator. It's Pink Sparrow with locations in LA and Brooklyn. And let's hear directly from their team and how they're benefiting from this technology and really how they're using the technology blended with other technologies within their organization.
Hi, I'm Anthony Santiago, and I'm the president of Pink Sparrow. The clients choosing between sculpting and 3D printing is shifting much more towards 3D printing. They want a more one-to-one replication from their models to the finished product.
The possibilities are endless with the Massivit 3D printer. It unlocks creativity for our clients and for our design team. Projects that benefit the most are those requiring large-scale, visually impactful elements for trade shows, retail environments, event marketing, or even prototypes. If a project demands speed, scale, or visual drama, the Massivit is a great option.
The ROI on the first machine has provided meaningful business results. The second machine gave us true bi-coastal capability, allowing us to replicate output, manage multi-market campaigns more efficiently, and reduce freight dependencies. It also enhanced our ability to deliver faster and more sustainably while maintaining full control over scenic quality, finishing, and consistency from coast to coast. The Massivit has provided new opportunities with existing clients as well as new clients by expanding the industries that we're able to serve, mainly our entertainment and brand direct clients, clients like Netflix who have very specific IP that they want replicated exactly. Pink Sparrow would not be able to service those clients without having the Massivit.
Some of my favorite results that have come from the Massivit printer are the Marc Jacobs hand that we did for Dover Street Market. Second would be the large Gymshark statue that we did. Both of those were really fun to work on and looked amazing in the end.
Having this tool in-house has proven to be a strategic differentiator in our business development conversations. It helps secure products that might otherwise go to outside vendors by combining value control and innovation under one roof.
So some pretty amazing productions. One thing you may have noticed is between all three of them, Hatch-X, Shag Carpet, and Pink Sparrow, a number of different finishing applications, a number of different technologies for adding foam inside or different materials inside, different shell coatings depending on where it's going to be, if it's going to be out in the hot sun in Texas, if it's going to be in a cold environment as well, if it's short-term, long-term, indoors or outdoors. Really, any application can be suitable with the right finishing. Another amazing example is experiential retail and advertising. And so you get the wow factor when traditional 2D applications or flat applications for billboards and signage and POPs, you can really make those pop now in a short amount of time as well. So imagine that billboard with just an image. Well, instead now make it pop by combining 2D and 3D. And that was done by Six Light Media, Zambia as well. Another example of creating some pop is the window display. And again, aside from just creating simple, flat architecture, they can easily turn the brand into something more and a more captivating experience utilizing 3D technologies. Things like amusement parks and museums, making that fantasy real. As digital technology improves, it affords precise replication of those characters. And that's the great thing as well. You can download digital media. If you're working with a vendor, you can get their media directly, so the IP is exact. You heard that from Anthony at Pink Sparrow, where they would obtain the digital imprint directly from their customer so that the part is exact when it's complete. Automation versus sculpting. This kind of goes back to some of what we've talked about with sculpting. Things like this would take weeks, months to create the sculpture. This is actually a 3D printed sculpture. This is not bronze. The sculpture was printed in multiple pieces, and because they wanted it to be extremely durable and long-term, it was filled with concrete, finished with a very, very thin layer of fiberglass, applied the texture and coating on top of it, and then finished patinaed the exterior for the display. And it's a permanent display and could not have been created in time if it were just a sculpture because of the time it takes. Just an amazing production that you can achieve in such a short amount of time. And in this case, it would have even cost them 30% more. An amazing studio, excuse me, Estudios de Rero in Spain, the Guggenheim project. 14.7 feet in diameter, very, very large, and 8 feet tall. All the houses and elements were printed using a Massivit large format 3D printer. An absolutely amazing replica and display and art piece that was created. And the size of it in general, or in total, in completion, was 200 kilograms. And you could see a little bit of the scale now with someone standing in front of the image as well. And this is an interesting concept when we think about museums and bringing history to life. Oftentimes, traditional technologies utilizing small builds, small components, small pieces, and creating that environment, and that's okay, but the larger the environment can be, becomes an immersive world. And you still allow the intricate details without that extensive manual labor. And again, just creating the model directly from a digital file. And so this was based on the classic picture of City on the Sea. Another example is outdoor street and sidewalk sculptures, easily created, that can be placed just about anywhere that you're looking for some visual flair. It could be a talking moment, a selfie spot, an attraction or attention getter as well. And this piece, you can see as it stands on the block, is about 8.5 feet tall. And once again, simply an attention getter, built to replicate the Lego. And once again, outdoor finishes, depending on the application, you can utilize whatever technology that you want to use. We'll show you some examples of that shortly, but really any type of application and texture that you want to apply, be it a rough finish, as you saw earlier, or something like this that's extremely smooth and glossy. Our friends at LMI, Mexico, create some amazing artistic pieces. Their production has gone, another example of going from weeks to days in some cases by utilizing GDP technology. In a case, for instance, the gown, that would take weeks to actually sculpt that, to get the detail right, to get the scale right, to get the replication right. They were simply able to print this and finish it in days and have it completed. And once again, it becomes really, really important when you're working with your customer with regard to scale and finish, but more importantly, that IP, that intellectual property that they want to ensure, and you want to ensure that the model, the display, the artistic piece is accurate as a replica. Film, TV, and theater, they're another great opportunity to showcase incredible art, sculptures, and props. Fabricators need tools that enable the speed, the size, and again, that wide range of materials and finishes. Here's an example, an amazing set design and build from Showman Fabricators using Massivit technology. The possibilities are absolutely endless. Showman Fabricators is one of our customers that produces a lot of set design or set builds, movie theaters, for television and broadcast, to live events as well, as you see here. Even in the gaming industry, excuse me, the gaming world is another great place to utilize incredible technology, such as our GDP technology. As more and more gaming centers become fully experiential, size really does matter in this case. And so, for instance, this amazing GamePod chassis, very large chassis, full size, was built by Sid Installation Art, fully printed in just 27 hours. And again, to get the size, the detail, the shape, and the materials and finish would be a very, very, very lengthy process with virtually any other technology. And they were able to achieve it in such a short time using Massivit GDP technology. Here's another example of a completed game console or game pod from Sid Installation Art. Once again, full size, interactive, experiential, and usable. And once again, depending on the finish, the application, these are not pieces that just have to remain as art. These can be full experiential environments. So the Massivit 5000, which we've seen in some of the videos, is really the tool in the toolbox that enables companies to complete those large production pieces quickly with tremendous speed, up to 14 inches per hour in the z-axis, and a build volume of 4 feet deep by 5 feet wide by 6 feet high. The Massivit 5000 is capable of printing a 6-foot tall sculpture in just 6 hours, depending on the geometry, certainly. And what you saw in some of the previous videos with the Massivit 5000, there are 2 independent heads that can print multiple pieces inside the same build chamber. So in order to print so big, so fast, the Massivit 3D GDP, or gel dispensing printing, rapidly and precisely dispenses a UV cured photopolymer gel that's instantly cured with UV light as it prints. And this creates a hollow, lightweight part that really can be filled with expandable foam or anything, depending on what you need for the final application. Or it can be left hollow for internal lighting and illumination. A number of examples that we won't show today, but if anyone is interested, we can provide you with those with full lighting from the internal structure of the parts, providing a full illuminated experience. So materials was the third pillar that we talked about early on. And with a wide range of materials developed, many options are available depending on the application needs. So for a general purpose material, Diamond Gel 90, Diamond Gel 100, cost effective. For a more high performance material is Diamond Gel 110. And even on the Diamond Gel 100, it's a translucent material. So once again, with a simple smoothing process, you can illuminate from the inside any geometry, any model, any sculpture with LEDs or any type of lighting application. Diamond Gel 300, for instance, is our transparent material. And once smooth, it becomes very, very clear and transparent. And that works phenomenal for projects that require components or items on the inside of the model that you want as a visual representation versus just lighting, for instance. And we also have Diamond Gel 400, which is an impact resistant material with a much higher tolerance to heat as well. So, excuse me, throughout the presentation, you saw a number of different finishes being applied, both from, actually all three, from Shag Carpet, from Hatch X, from Pink Sparrow as well. And those finishes depend on what you're looking for, where the application's going to be. For instance, the dinosaur that you see on the screen is actually a clay finish on the outside that was applied after the model was printed. Once the clay finish was applied, then the artist went to work to complete the color and complete the texture to make it look the way they really wanted it to look from a traditional sculpture standpoint. So once again, those technologies or that expertise that you may already have doesn't go away. You still get to leverage that expertise. You just get to that point much, much faster. Some of those exterior materials we talked about or that you saw that were being sprayed on depends on if the part is going outside in the Texas heat, for instance, where it's going to remain out in the sun. Shag Carpet is a prop rental company, so many of their props that they actually 3D print using GDP technology are stored out in the sun for days at a time, perhaps weeks at a time. And so oftentimes what Shag Carpet will do is they'll coat those parts with what's called either rhino liner, or in their case, they have another lining that they'll spray on called Linex. And if you've heard of the truck bed spray called Line-X, it's actually the same material and a number of different materials from Line-X that you can spray right on the part and give it that durable structure, both in either a black and a rough finish or a black smooth finish. They actually have Line-X Ultra, which is a clear, smooth finish that you can spray on that still gives you the durability. So it's almost endless in terms of what you can do with finishing, what you can do with structure, where the part is going, where it's going to be placed, indoors, outdoors, weather permitting. Um, Very, very broad range of capability and application. And the great thing about our gel materials, it's acrylic based. So nearly everything that you want to apply to it sticks to Massivit material. Very, very easy to finish and easily and quickly create those amazing builds that you were able to see throughout the presentation and what you see on the screen now as well. So with that, I'm going to pass this back over to Brian, and Brian's going to take you through some Q&A with the addition of some folks from our team. So I'll mute for just a moment and I'll turn it over to Brian.
Thanks, Randy. Great information. Exciting videos too. I don't think I'd want that Queen of Hearts anywhere near me. She looks horrifying. But Robert, we're going to bring Robert Salomon from Massivit, the application group manager, in here. Hey, Robert, good to see you. Now we've had a lot of questions coming in, and the Massivit team is kind of behind the scenes right now, answering a lot of those questions. But I think it's great to address them here in the webinar today. And I'm seeing some repeat questions. So maybe we should kind of start there. And I know Randy was bringing up the company at Shag Carpet and kind of just touched on this a little bit. So I'm going to kind of combine these questions. So first of all, how does the 3D printing resist the exterior conditions like rain, heat, and UV that Randy did kind of touch on? And along with that, after the proper post processes are done, how long have these large scale sculptures been able to be housed outside long term? We basically have about 3 or 4 of those questions, kind of wanting to know the durability and being in the elements and how long they can last. So, Robert, could you speak to that a little bit?
Yes, of course. Can you hear me properly, Brian?
Yeah, I can.
Hi, so thank you for having me on. So first of all, as like out of the box, our raw diamond gel materials don't have any special resistance to outside conditions. That's why most of our clients that use the materials to print objects that are being placed outside need some kind of a post-processing done on them, which the first would usually be to fill them up with some kind of expanding foam. So if somebody, goes on the statue, gets on it, it doesn't break. And then you would apply some kind of very thin fiberglass coating just to help with the UV resistance, or any other spray on UV resistant coating that you would use for any other kinds of plastics or models that you would want to have them standing outside. And if the post process is done properly, we've had models outside for 2, 3 years, sometimes even more, and we haven't heard of any prints failing even after a few years that they've been outside.
Oh, that's great. Okay. Also, any fire rating on the materials that can go through the machines?
When we're talking about the GDP line that Randy showed, the gel dispensing printing machines, which are the Massivit 5000 or 3000, we don't have fire rated diamond gel materials. That would be a different discussion regarding our cast in motion technology.
Great. And what do you estimate the post-print time to be for prepping the print for paint? The 3D print does not appear to be smooth.
Yeah. So it would depend a lot on the complexity of the model and how many details you have. The more detail on the surface of the model, the more you would have to get into sanding all those different details and keeping them on. But generally speaking, the material itself is very friendly to post-processing. It's very easy to sand. It's very easy to fill with any kind of spray fillers that you might already be using in your shop. And it's so easy to sand that even with manual sanding, you can get to a quite smooth finish pretty quickly. So, but I don't have an exact number to give you because it would depend on the model itself.
Okay, great. And someone reached out saying they're trying to understand the value proposition here. Does the savings you highlight with this Massivit process limited to shortening the design and sculpting time? Seems like there's a lot of post-production work that's required to get the final smooth finish.
Okay, so I would say that the value is a lot in accuracy and repeatability of the models, of having your model true to the digital product that you're trying to recreate. Um, and also the speed in which you print, and also you're having a machine working for you while you can be in the shop working on other projects instead of having people carve up foam for days on end. The machine is doing the work for you and a lot faster than any other 3D printer would do. So you kind of have a lot of different added values in all kinds of the departments. So accuracy, repeatability, and um, just an unattended machine working in the shop.
Okay. And Randy, this one's for you. It says, Randy, you keep saying that the 3D print outputs were finished with fiberglass. When you say that, do you mean the gel coating or resin?
Right. So that's a really good question, Brian. And so in some cases, I'll give you two quick examples. In one case, we have a customer in Croatia called Velum Nautica. And Velum Nautica is a boat yard, and they do a lot of perform a lot of retrofit work on yachts. And for instance, one yacht owner wanted to extend their swim platform, and that required creating a larger swim platform. The stern of the boat, the rails on the side, stern rails, needed to be longer. So they were simply able to scan the existing stern, the rails on the side, use that data and design new stern rails, larger, longer, print all of that with Massivit, GDP technology, and they simply laid up a thin layer of fiberglass. And when I say lay up a thin layer of fiberglass, it's almost a rare case that people will use fiberglass over top of a Massivit model. But in the case of Velum Nautica, this is going on the water. So, and boats are fiberglass. So they added the fiberglass, used traditional Bondo techniques, marine finish, and it's been on the water for, I think, 4.5 years now. And so the example that I gave was the Aboriginal soldier, and that is it takes a lot of abuse. It's a very, very high touch point model, and so the customer on their own decided to add that thin layer of fiberglass. It just adds additional structure, additional strength. I can tell you for the most part, our friends at HatchX rarely, if ever, use fiberglass. What they'll simply do is spray on an overcoat of polyurea, which gives it a rock hard structure and finish. And so that was probably a long answer, but I wanted to provide that level of detail for the person that asked that question and as to why that fiberglass was used, Brian.
And if I can add just a small detail is that the fiberglass can also come in a very, very thin tissue form, and that can also help you keep the details of the model intact while still adding the added strength of the fiberglass.
Hey, great. Now, next question, and there's kind of been a few of these as well. Is 3D print designing easier to learn compared to traditional sculpting? And I imagine there may still be challenges when determining size and measurements. And this kind of goes along with another question about what sort of prior experience and knowledge is needed to operate the printers. What is like training timeline in all of this?
So with any new skill, it's going to be the learning curve is really going to depend on the person. If they've ever done any kind of real world sculpting before, then learning 3D sculpting is kind of works almost the same, just you need to learn the digital tools that allow you to do the exact same manipulations like actual sculpting with clay. Or if you have used any 3D software before to model, like Blender, for example, or ZBrush, to someone that has never done any kind of 3D work, it could take a bit more, but it's not impossible. It just takes a while, like learning any new skill, but it also really depends on the type of work that you want to do. If you want to create a very complex sculpture of a person, for example, from zero, that of course is going to take months to learn. But if you're just, for example, working with 3D scans, you want to 3D scan your objects that you model in clay, 3D scan them and enlarge them and 3D print them, that can take just a few days to learn. So it really depends on your exact process. Or if you have existing files that you want to print really big, just learning how to cut those files into different parts and add connectors to them, that can also be somewhere of a matter of just days, 2 weeks to learn. So it can be very easy and it can be very hard depending on the complexity of the job.
And Brian I would add to that comment that we have an amazing team at Massivit for, as Robert mentioned, for the training and the ongoing support. But I would also suggest that we have an amazing network of customers that collaborate together, that share knowledge together, that in some cases, many customers really like to help support other customers and bring them up into technology to help them. And so to the point of the learning curve, there's a huge network of collaboration that can help support that as well.
Well, Randy, that's actually a great point because that kind of goes into my next question that someone has is what sort of training do you provide after installation?
Yeah.
Robert, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, after you receive your printer, the training is divided into two different parts. Usually it takes around 2 weeks. So we come to your site and we are with you on your site for the whole 2 weeks. A part of it is learning how to actually work with the machine itself, working with the printer software, how to maintenance the machine. And then there's the whole application side where we teach you how to work with the slicer, how to slice the models, how to prepare them. We show you different post-processing techniques that are very common to Massivit prints. So we have a full array of training materials that are provided on site for around 2 weeks.
Oh, that's fantastic. All right. Now, are there any, next question is, are there any downfalls, trade-offs with large scale 3D printing that people should be aware of,
Sometimes, yes, you need to think about more things than when printing small, because when you're orienting a very big part and you're printing it, for example, diagonally on the whole machine, you have to take into account that you're going to have a lot of weight printed in the air, so you need to properly support it. And because we're printing hollow, you are saving a lot of material, but then you need to take into account some of the post-processing steps that you need to do. You just need to take the things that you're doing smaller and imagine that when you're doing them bigger, you have a bit more physics to take into account. And it's also something that we can help out with. For example, as part of the onboarding process with the machine, even after we finish our training sessions, if clients are still not, for example, 100% sure about what they're going to print, then they can send over their files and we can review them and we can kind of help them tweak small things that they still don't quite understand about printing so large.
Great. Okay. And Randy, earlier you were kind of talking about how far 3D printing has come. And this question is asking, where do you see large scale 3D printing going in the future? Are there even larger prints, different materials that potentially could be coming down the pike?
Well, it's an interesting question, Brian, and I think it's evolving quickly. and changing quickly. And we see new additions in different industries, different applications and different developments in the metal industry, for instance. It just really depends on the industry. I would say for us, we look at, again, materials and speed. And so in what I would suggest is for us, it's more along the lines of materials. We have a proven technology. The technology works very, very well. It provides a good ROI, a good yield. In terms of size, I don't think you'll see Massivit itself getting bigger in terms of the footprint. But keep in mind the challenge, sure, that you're going to see larger printers. There are larger printers out there. The difference is instead of having, someone had mentioned the post-processing time, instead of having a very thin layer that you're going to build up with a primer or sand down, with a larger printer that, for instance, could print a boat hull, it's a huge amount of waste and time spent removing those extra layers. And so, technology wise, if it were me, I want to look at the ability to use a glove and sculpt by hand and allow that sculpture then to be digitally 3D printed. And I think we're really close to that. And I think that's what we're going to see, is potentially some close to real-time application for that. Again, just based on what I see with technology happening.
Sure, sure. Someone's asking, are there any industries that you deal with outside of the themed entertainment industry or outside of museums, maybe advertising perhaps, or anything?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I think either Robert or I could cover that. I'll chime in. I'd like Robert to follow up as well. Absolutely, in advertising, we sort of mentioned it where you might be in New York City and window displays. To give those window displays pop, you want to see perhaps some 3D that's being added to that visual graphic. Imagine a bus going down somewhere in Manhattan, and that bus, a tourist bus, or even just a people mover, instead of having a vinyl wrap only, having the vinyl wrap and then having some 3D component on it, and as part of the branding and as part of the advertising. When the Angry Birds movie, one of the new movies came out, they actually did that. They put a wrap on, but they incorporated 3D using Massivit technology onto that bus, and then of course finished it and gave it the brand application. And so they were able to do that from an advertising perspective as well. And certainly Massivit moves over into marine, aerospace, military and defense, automotive as well. Many different applications. And Robert, if there's anything you'd like to follow up there as well.
yeah, of course, you can use it in architecture if you want to print a very unique piece for an apartment or for any kind of building. I said automotive, aviation, our printers are used even in the furniture industries for mock-ups, in retail, creating masters for silicon molds. So the applications are pretty much endless.
As far as your creativity can take you.
Exactly.
Um, can this product be, are the products that are created, can they be sandblasted?
For sure. It's not a requirement to sandblast them, but if you want to achieve a certain matte finish with sandblasting, then of course, the material is UV cured polymer. So basically, at the end of the process, you get a plastic. So any kind of post-processing you would want to do to a plastic part, and you can do to it, you can do to our prints for sure.
Great. Oh, it looks like we have someone from Tampa who was involved with the Queen of Hearts, and they say, for context, the Queen took 16 hours post-processing, is out in the Florida sun for 2 months a year, and has been used twice so far, and she still looks great, and we will be using her again this year. So sounds like they're really happy with the printing on her.
Absolutely. Special thanks to Mike Zindel from Busch Gardens in Tampa. Appreciate that, Mike.
I'm here in Orlando. I'm gonna have to go down and visit Busch Gardens and take a look. Let's see. Oh, okay. Where are the printers manufactured? Are there any issues with import restrictions or tariffs? Is there a US team for post-purchase support?
Robert, do you want to take that or you want me to take that?
I would prefer you take it. 'Cause
Yeah, sure.
you're more connected with the import-export part of the printers themselves.
Absolutely. No worries. So the printers themselves are manufactured in Israel, and we stock everything in Chicago in North America for the North American market. Everything is stocked in Chicago. We have a stock of printers there as well. From a tariff standpoint, certainly there are tariffs, and I won't speak to good or bad. Each individual can answer that question themselves. But yes, there are tariffs for sure, and there always have been. Many people don't know that. It's just the tariff structure has changed. But at the end of the day, really, what we look for is the right solution, the right time, the right price, the right investment, and the right ROI. And so Massivit has always been a very good partner for our customers in terms of understanding those challenges, and we certainly help address those as well. And again, to that point, Brian, the latter part of that question, we do have a support team based in Atlanta, in North America as well, around the globe, but certainly for the team that asked that, or for the attendee that asked that question, definitely we do in North America.
Oh, that's great, Randy. Well, I'll tell you what, and just to wrap up really quick, because we are just about out of time, but we do have an architect in Nashville, Tennessee, who's interested in some ideas in exploring 3D printing as well, and they'd love to reach out, maybe get in touch. So perfect, Randy. That's exactly what I was hoping you'd show. So
Sure.
Robert there, who asked that question about how could they best get in touch, feel free to message Randy there by email and pursue that. I'm sure he'd be happy to help you out. But Randy, Robert, are there any final thoughts that you would like to share with our attendees today before we wrap things up?
Well, I did want to add one, and that is, we've talked a lot about North America, but we understand there's a global audience, and we have many, many customers throughout Europe and a full team in Europe as well, from a pre-application, post-application support, et cetera. And I just wanted to make sure that everyone from a global perspective was aware that we're certainly a global presence company. And again, one final note, we've got the RTech Open House, one of our customers, on May 7th in Portland, Oregon.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for sharing this fantastic information, both Randy and to Robert. We really appreciate your expertise in talking with our members today. And just as a reminder, everybody, our webinar will be available on IAAPA.org within 3 to 5 business days or so. So make sure you check that recording out in the learning library there on our website, along with many other on-demand education sessions that are great to check out as well. So thank you again, everybody, for joining us. We hope to see you all at a future IAAPA webinar and maybe some of our expos, see you live and in person. So have a great day, everybody. And Robert, Randy, take care of yourselves. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you
Thank you,
very much,
Brian.
Brian.